Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change. I'm here to guide you from frustration to flow in your life, bridging the practical and the woo, just for you. Let's go. All right, welcome to the week, Change Gang. I have Katherine Flynn back with me, and she is amazing. She channels the Druids, and she is not only a channeler, but a certified intuitive life purpose coach, which I think is really cool, and a psychic medium and artist. So we talked a lot about some of the channeling process last time, and I'm going to dig into some other stuff this time. But thanks for being here, Katherine. I truly appreciate it. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me back. This was such a fun conversation last time, so I'm loving coming back.
Yeah, and I want to dive in a little bit. So we talked last time a little bit about the Druids and kind of how they came to be into your life. For those of you that haven't listened, go have a listen to that last podcast and explain some of that and how they showed up for you. And the Druids are amazing. I didn't even know that they were a collective that chose to come in and channel. Are you aware of anyone else that kind of connects with them or has a particular connection in terms of maybe them being a guide or anything like that?
I know people that have an affinity to them and have had lifetimes with them or connect with them, but I don't know anyone who channels them. And I've been told that there are a few of us on the planet and that at some point we will meet, but that the timing isn't quite right yet. So I'm just kind of rolling with that. And I know when the time is right, I'll end up connecting with those other people that do so.
That is so cool. That is just really cool. I bet you almost probably find people that want to be in connection with the Druids, I would think, don't you?
Yeah, I do. They're always like, really, like, tell me more. What do they know? And just the connections they have with so many other energies that are out there. Like I started connecting with Saint Germain and someone was like, you need to figure out how they connect. Like the Druids and Saint Germain connect somehow. And I was like, they must, so that's my new challenge I'm on now, my research project. Like, okay, how did these two connect? And there's not much information I'll say. So I will say if anyone listening knows the connection, please let me know because I'd love to make my research a little smoother.
There you go. And maybe they'll share with you at some point what that connection is when they say yes,
they will, yeah,
is right. I think people are it's interesting because someone would just say, well, why don't you just go ask them? And it's like, well, I'm going to guess I can ask them, but they're not going to tell me until they want me to know something.
Exactly.
In search of something.
Yeah. And I find that when I do the work myself, sometimes, going to the library or doing the Google searches or traveling somewhere, that it means more to me than just them giving me the information. It's like you have to do the work to truly understand it. So I know they'll tell me at some point. I just, and digging in, like, how I talked before about I had to figure out who the Druids were. Yeah, they could have told me, but they're like, no, do the research, read up on it, see other people's perspectives on it, and then we'll give you our perspective on it.
Has being connected to the Druids changed the physicality of your own life? Meaning like how you move in the world, what your home is like, what what you kind of surround yourself with. Has it changed?
It has, especially over the last 3 years, I've really made some major changes in my life, including, leaving a corporate job, really kind of having to go in and look at the aspects of me that I wanted to keep, that I didn't want to keep, that weren't serving me. With them, it's about, okay, kind of reconnecting back in with who I am at a soul level and who I was when I was a Druid prior, because I've seen the lifetimes of when, they were on Earth and I was too. And so, from a physical standpoint, my body is still adjusting to the vibration, is still understanding it. I'm getting ready to make a move that's really going to be very healing for me, to a different geographic location. So all of these things are kind of coming in that were happening at the right point in time, but it was all about my own development and my own growth. And people will even tell me, my mom told me this not long ago. She goes, you are a totally different person than you were 3 years ago. She goes, the things you would have gotten worked up about or mad about or yelled about, She goes, you just kind of like roll with it now. I'm like, because they're mundane, it didn't matter. You know, I still get triggered. I'm not perfect by any means, but I try to look at things as, everyone is on their own journey, and I am just a bystander, or I'm a person that is executing something for them to have an experience or a learning, and they're doing the same for me. And so when I look at things that way, the little things don't bother me as much. And patience is the thing I'm really trying to work on right now. I have zero patience. So that's been a big one, but just kind of letting things come in. So, even my family's noticing it, but I think that's good. I like where I am. I still know I have more growth to do, but as the universe is kind of showing me where to go and giving me opportunities, I'm just kind of taking them and then just keeping walking down that path and going, okay, I know if it feels right, if it resonates with me, I make that shift and that change.
Yeah, well, I think there's a shift that happens when you're doing that, and you find that there is a space where you, at the core, are okay, regardless of outside circumstances. So those things that you called mundane or anything that's kind of outside, even if it's big, even if there's something going on that's big, you have a different way of reacting to it.
Yeah.
Even if you have the moment of eek or whatever it is, it's much less than it was before. And you come into that space of, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm still okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. You just revert back to that, and just go, okay, let me deal with this, and then let's move on. I might have to pivot or make a change, but that's okay.
So you talked about one of the ways that you kind of connected with the Druids, or that came up, or maybe this happened after you connected, where you did some past life regression that I love, and I've done some of that, and I work with people in that as well. And you found that you connected, or you were a Druid in a past lifetime. Was that like more than one lifetime? What was that like? Do you want to share anything about that knowledge or experience?
Yeah, I can. So, the one that kept coming up a lot that I really had to work through was, it was during the Black Plague. It was not a positive lifetime for me. There was a lot of things that happened that I took responsibility for that I shouldn't necessarily have done. But that guilt really sat on me, that I had caused a lot of these things to come, because of the information I held and the knowledge. And, as a Druid, we were healers. We were supposed to heal, and it really was hard to do that during that time. And so, I really had to work through a lot of that and really to understand that and what that was. So that's a big one that when I was a Druid that came up. And I've had others, that I still had the connection with them and the abilities and, the psychicness, some where I was really able to help a lot of people that were for the good. There was others that, again, wasn't so good. And everyone's like, oh, I've always had great lifetimes. And I always tell people, we've all had good and bad. We've all been the villain and we've been the hero. It just depends. It's all about those experiences. And I don't look at them as good or bad. They're just what we needed to do to evolve and to understand and to play these parts. And so, I look at those and how they connect. And I'm sure there's others. I always think and believe that past lives only come to us if there's something we need to learn from it and do from it. I was told one time, quit dwelling in those, focus on the now. The same thing with consciousnesses. I've had a lot of thoughts around that, different versions of our consciousness. And this is a whole nother topic to get into, but I'm told just focus on where you are now, where you're at now, and you can focus on the others when you're in those timelines. Yeah, those were kind of the big ones that kind of pop up for me now and then.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's pretty cool. Have you done the future life regression as well, or progression, I guess you would say? Future life progression.
I have not done a progression, but I do have future versions of myself that come and work with me now. And I think I'm kind of like using them as like, okay, let's speed it up. But I haven't dug too deep into that. They'll just show up at times and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Help me, give me some guidance here. So.
That's cool. That's really cool. So I have to ask because for those of you that can't see me, one of the things my background is right now in the moment is a stone circle. And this is John Begg Circle in Ireland. And that was like one of my things that I had to go see and connect with. And I did connect. It was like, oh my goodness, I was so happy to be in that space. And I don't even know if I would say that it was like this really deep spiritual, it was just a joy that I felt in being in that space. And this particular one actually has a whole area around it too, that where it had, their living parts of their living areas and things like that were super fascinating. How do stone circles connect with Druids? What did you learn about them, and what have they told you about them?
So what they've told me is that they really use them as a gathering place, that they really use them. They were multifaceted. They were our gathering place. They were also where we would have, animals at times, where we would cook. They were like, it was kind of like the living room that we would have in our houses now. Everyone would go there, everyone would come. And they said they would also set them up in certain ways so that they could work with the equinoxes and the solstices. And so they were laid out in a very specific way based on where they were at in the land they were in. And they always told me every plot of land that they would inhabit or really root down, because they were kind of migratory as well, but when they would really root down was all about what element or what did that land need there. How could they really connect in with the earth? My belief is that land also has a consciousness, there's ancestors of it. And so it was about that healing aspect as well. What can they do to really connect with it and to help the energy of the land heal too?
Yeah.
But
it was fascinating. And it was so cool because not only here, but another place went to, and I can't remember, it's like a monolithic tomb, something where the stones are put in a particular way. And then they actually had, out in the field, out a ways, another stone that marked something at a certain time of year and beyond that even. And it all lined up. And it's like, oh my goodness. And this was how many years ago? And they had all of this going on then. I mean, it's almost like we lost a big part of the knowledge that we had.
Oh, for sure. They told me a lot. They said, you guys look at the Dark Ages as a negative. They go, the human race and Earth needed to go back inward and reset. They said they told me the knowledge that we held is beyond what you guys could comprehend, because the veil wasn't as thick, the energy wasn't as dense here. The Dark Ages really kind of were like a reset and kind of almost went back in again so that we could ascend back up. And so I think more of that will come through if we can really be open to, not having to put everything in a logical way and just have trust and just utilize energy that is all around us and we can do so much with in a different way. But yeah, they are magnificent. They're, I haven't seen a lot over there. It's another trip I need to do, is go back and really connect in with some of those stone circles, but they're powerful. That's for sure.
Yes. I'm hoping to go to Scotland next year, and stone circles is on my list they're like, must-haves when you go somewhere. And that's one of my must-haves when I go back to there as well, because I have a lot of ancestry from there as well. You mentioned the ancestors and the land and stuff, and I very much felt that when I visited Ireland. It was like going home and having that wonderful connection. It was just a really happy time. It doesn't have to be this deep spiritual whatever, being in joy and being in happiness and having that connection when you go someplace. That's amazing. That right there is so spiritual, is so amazing. And people don't recognize it enough, I think, as being that kind of a connection, because you are here. Like we talked in our last conversation, we're here on this earth and we leave energy and imprints and information, and that ancestral energy is there for us. And it's not always about breaking the ancestral chains, or it's also about pulling the ancestral power into our lives as well. Allowing that to be a part of it, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. We always look at who we are right now But our ancestral power comes from not only our physical DNA, but our soul DNA. So it's like bringing those in to say, help us, work with the ancestors. People say, I believe that they're all still around us. They all can still support us. Some of the things that we release are actually theirs, that have just come down. Everyone says, oh, it's the pattern in the family. Well, break the pattern, tell that ancestor, come back and get it. This is yours. It's not mine. And then let's start again. So yeah, it's about just connecting with them. There are so many resources available for us that, we can't see, that are in the spiritual realm and the energetic realm. And so, rely on them, work with them, call on them. They'll always be there to help.
Yeah. One of the things too that you put out there as something that you are and you do is being a psychic medium. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, did that come as a part of the channeling, or did that come before or kind of after you started connecting in that way?
That really came when I started doing tarot. You've got to have some psychic ability to read tarot, in my mind. I know other people might say it's differently, but I believe that you do need that aspect. And so, it was kind of there before. To be a channel, you have to be a psychic medium because you're talking to spirit. So obviously you're a medium. So I'll use it now and then if I'm, I'll say, oh, I'm picking up this or I'm picking up that, which really isn't quite channeling. But to me, it kind of all works as one bucket. My forte is when someone will say, oh, I want to connect with my grandfather or my father that has passed. I'm like, I can see what I get, but that's not my realm. I can tell you what I'm picking up. I can tell you what the Druids say, but I think that we all have our skills. And that I try not to go too far outside of that realm of what I work in, but I am still technically a medium because sometimes I will say, why is this person around you?
Well, and do the Druids kind of allow that? Do they, not allow, do they usher in ever, someone's grandfather or someone's and says, hey, this needs to be said too, or anything like that? Or is it really separate?
It's really separate for the most part. When I'm channeling, it's really about what the Druids have to say in that information. And someone may ask a question about their grandfather and say, I want to know about this or that. And they'll give the information. It's usually not as 3D as what the client wants. But I've had other times where I'm sitting kind of psychically tapping in, just kind of open, that I'll pick up, to someone. I said I said a name. I'm like, why is Paul? Who's Paul? And then all of a sudden she's like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't know. But it just happened. It wasn't like it was supposed to, because obviously he wanted to come through and really say, hey, I'm here. And this is why I'm here. So it just kind of depends upon each session. So I tell people, you never know what's going to happen when you're working with me. That's
fun. That sounds fun to me. That sounds really fun. And then also, as an artist, when did that come in? Is that something that's been there, or did that kind of develop along with the abilities that came along?
No, it really started with the abilities, and it started about 3 years ago. I never considered myself creative or an artist, but I had this calling to really work with natural stones and resin and really put pieces together that have an energy to them, have a connection. And, I always know they're meant for someone. I just don't know who. So it's funny. People will, I have some at a gallery, and they go, people will come and they will look at a piece and they'll say, can I hold it? And we tell them, yeah. They're like, they literally will walk around with it and say, this is mine. And they're like, we will wrap it for you. You can buy it and then we'll wrap it so you can take it home. And they're like, to get it out of their hands. And I said, that's when I know it found the right person. That's when I know it truly found, it's going to be loved. It's going to be connected with. It is truly meant for them. So I dabble in different things, but always use stones and really infuse energy. And each one is channeled. I usually, all of a sudden I'll just stop, or I'll pick up one stone. I'll be like, nope, it's not that one. And then I always say, as soon as they get ready into the curing process, I'll say, oh, they all look terrible. I don't like them. As soon as I come back the next day, I'm like, oh my God, I love them. These are great. It's just part of the process, I guess, I have when I go in and out of that channeling state.
That's so cool. That's so fun, I think. And to to allow that energy to come through in another way is super. That's bringing it into the earthly realm and bringing it into a way that they're talking to you about. Be here in this space now. And by doing that, you're absolutely doing it. I think that's the way I see it. So that's so cool. So I'm going to touch now on a little bit of the practical side of things, because you did mention, I believe in our last conversation, I don't remember if it was this one or last one. Anyway, you mentioned about the leaving the corporate world and diving in, to this. So what was that like for you, and how do you do you just trust that things are going to really kind of come forward for you? Has it really been organic, or did you kind of have to put a lot of effort, even some effort into it, and really kind of be in that business learning process? How did that work for you? What was the transition like?
It was a tough transition, because not only I kind of left after the universe was really pushing me out the door. I had some things happen to me physically that I just said, okay, I get it. This isn't where I need to be. I really need to make this shift. And so, and I heard, are you done yet? Are you done? So I resigned from my role, and then I worked a few more months, of course, like everybody does. And, because they say, can we have another week? Can we have another week? And then I finally had to say, okay, I'm done. And so it was tough in the aspect that I knew the business I have now, the channeled source, had always been around, but I never really focused on it. I didn't really talk about it. It was there. I had certain clients that I worked with, but it wasn't out forefront. So I really had to come to grips with who I was, what I was walking into, and really rebuild it. I had a business background. I was in, business management for years and years. And so I had that background. I understood the marketing, the finance, and all of that. But now it was really me connecting in with who I was and what I needed and how this would look for me, and building this business of the channeled source, which truly has its own, in my mind, consciousness, personality aspect. It's part of me, but it's not just me. It became a struggle. So I did a ton of traveling. I went down and stayed with my parents for like 6 months, and, kind of went sometimes it felt like a little backwards, like I was in, high school again, but, really then said, okay, this is where I'm going. And every step has been necessary for me to really grow and move forward. I have taken a lot of action. I believe that action is necessary. At some points, I felt like I was throwing Jell-O at a wall to see what sticks. And as we all know, Jell-O doesn't stick to a wall. But it was really me saying, okay, universe, I'm going to try this, and let's just see what happens. As I'm coming into that, and as I'm figuring out what resonates, really now I just do what brings me joy, what do I enjoy? And I know that as soon as that I've done the shifting that I need to, and that I'm really set in where I need to be, that it will continue to blossom for me and open up.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I'm so happy that you chose to come here and share this information with me, because I have learned so much, and I'm super fascinated with it. And I'm open to messages from the Druids. It's like, ooh, I want to know what they have to say. So might have to have another conversation, just outside of this a little bit. But I want to make sure that everyone can find you. So go ahead and share. Of course, they'll be in the show notes how to connect with Katherine. But tell us where they can find you, Katherine.
Yeah. So really the easiest place to find me is on my website, which is thechanneledsource.com. I also have an Instagram, a Facebook, and a YouTube page. So if you're looking for more information on Druid messages or how I work with clients, those are the best ways to find me. If you have questions, shoot me an email. I always love to hear from people about their connections with the Druids, or how they're working on their path, or people that have listened. Welcome to connect with me there or on any of those platforms.
All right. And is there anything that you want to share to everyone out there that I'll hand it over to you for a minute if there is. If not, then we'll be done.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they're telling me to say right now is, for everyone listening, just find joy and happiness in every single day. even if it's just a moment when you open your eyes or close your eyes when you're in bed, in the morning or in the evening. But if you can just find that one moment of joy, that will start to beginning to shift your entire journey of where you're going. And that's one thing that we aren't taught as much anymore. It's all about the grind, but instead it should all be about the joy.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. That's wonderful information. Thank you. All right, then. Off we go. Thank you so much. Thank you, Change Gang, for being here and listening. And I hope that you have a great week. And I will meet you right here, same time next week. Ciao. I hope today's episode was interesting to you in some way and fun. If so, hey, find someone to share it with. Maybe they need to hear it too, or maybe they'll just enjoy it. If you'd like, go ahead and grab my tips on supercharging your success. It includes a free short meditation to do just that. You can find that at bit.ly/supercharge your success. Until next time, happy day.